Hello everyone, and welcome to Surcoat Shows Off Pathfinder 2e. So, this video, we're going to look at one of my own archetypes, the Mage Hunter. So, there's plenty of magic out there, and you can counteract each other for other magic users. But there's not as many options for a martial class to counteract magic. So that's where the idea of this one came from. So, while many in the world view magic as a gift from the gods, or as a reward for hard work, you, though, view it as something else entirely. You may be someone who hunts down the divine emissaries of evil gods, or maybe someone who despises those that use magic with proper teachings. Either way, you hunt for those mages that you believe shouldn't wield the powers of creation. So it's not necessarily that you hate all magic, but that you hate particular types of magic, and particular types of magic users. So this is uncommon, so if you want to use it, get your GM's permission. And this is also a homebrew, so you also need your GM's permission for that regard. So the dedication you get at level 2. Choose one of the 4 traditions of magic: divine, arcane, primal, or occult. Okay? You get a +1 status bonus to saving throws made against spells from that chosen tradition. Pretty nice. You can also choose either the spell shield or spell absorb reaction. You also gain the defensive stance action. Or magic defense stance. I forgot to put the magic word in there. Sorry. So, magic defense stance. Well, first of all, it's a stance. So one action you get into the stance. And it's designed to keep an eye all around you. So, what does it do? It gives you deny advantage. Okay? So, that's where you can't be flat-footed or flanked by a creature your level or lower. Now, if you're already getting deny advantage from some other source, the effect applies to all creatures, not just those of equal or lower level, which means you will never be caught flanked or flat-footed. So this can be quite powerful setup in that regard. Spell Shield. It's a reaction when you are targeted by a spell from your chosen Mage Hunter tradition. So if you chose Divine, this only works on Divine spells. If you're in your stance, okay, and you have your shield out, doesn't need to be raised, you just need to have a shield. You can attempt a counteract check using your skill modifier for that tradition, plus any potency rune on your shield. If you're successful, the spell is counteracted. And the level of this effect is 1/3 your level, rounded down, minimum of 1. Well, before we continue, let's take a look at counteract in Pathfinder 2e. So this is how counteracting works. Okay? So to attempt a counteract check, you add your relative skill modifiers and so on, and you do it against the target's DC. So often it'll be the caster's DC for their spell. Okay? Now, based off of the result, we'll determine if you counteract or not. Critical failure? No, you don't counteract. That should be fairly obvious. On a regular failure, you can actually counteract it if the level of the effect is lower than your effect's counteract level. So what does this mean? Well, if your counteract effect, let's say you're level 6, that means your counteract effect would be level 2. So that means even if you fail to have a failure against a level 1 spell, you still counteract it. For a success, that is you will counteract something that is an effect no more than 1 level higher than you. So again, let's say you're level 6, you get a success, you can counteract a level 3 or lower spell. And then a critical success, something up to 3 levels higher than your effect. Again, let's say you're level 6. that can counteract up to a 5th level spell. Now, if you're level 6 and you're dealing with an opponent with a 5th level spell, it's unlikely that you'll get a critical success, but there's that possibility. So keep that in mind for how counteract works. After spell shield, you could instead take spell absorb. So when you're targeted by a spell from your chosen Mage Hunter tradition, and you're in that stance again, you may attempt a counteract check using your skill modifier, plus your held weapons, or hand wraps, potency level. If successful, the spell is not counteracted at all, but a copy of that spell is imbued into your held weapon or unarmed attack. And again, the spell effect is 1/3 your level, rounded down. And now scroll back up to the top. And here's the other half of it. Yep, let's go over here. On your following turn, so you can't hold it, it needs to be on your next turn. You can spend 1 action to activate the spell. If you do so, on your next strike with the imbued item, if you hit the target, the spell is cast on that target. If you fail to hit, the spell is expended with no further effect. So you essentially turn yourself into a little bit of a magus, but only with the spells coming back at you. At level 4, you can choose one's not enough and get your other reaction. Now, one thing to keep in mind for these two reactions. When you are targeted by a spell, right? This only works for targeted spells. It does not work for AoE. So if there's multiple just area affected, you can't counteract it with these two abilities. It only works if you are targeted by one of the two aspects. Also at level 4, you can take Adaptable Hunter. You can choose an additional tradition to gain the benefit. And you can take this multiple times, choosing a different tradition each time. So if you take this 3 times, you'll get that +1 status bonus to saving throws against any spell, regardless of the source, and be able to catch and throw back from any source. So that should be quite useful. Enhanced counters. You may use Spell Shield or Spell Absorb against any spell of your chosen traditions that affect you, instead of just the ones targeting you. So somebody throws a fireball at you, it's now in your sword. Or, you put your shield up and absorb the fireball and protect everyone. Now here's the thing to keep in mind. Spell Shield will counteract the spell. Spell Absorb, the spell still goes off. So you'll get hit by that fireball. And then you do a fireball right back at melee range. So you'll be taking the damage twice, but you'll be able to do what you want with that. So just keep those type of ideas in mind. Now, if it's a cone, that's even better for you. Always Ready, level 8. You can start your encounter in the magic defensive stance. So you're not going to have to waste an action. That one's up to you if it's worth it for you or not. Split Attention, level 10. You gain an additional reaction each round. That X reaction is only usable on Spell Shield or Spell Absorb. So you have your regular reaction that you can use on these, or something else. But keep in mind, no spell can be the target of 2 reactions at once, and any item may only have 1 spell imbued in it from Spell Absorb at any given time. So you can't have Spell Absorb and then Spell Absorb again to your weapon and have 2 spells in it if 2 get cast on you. Now if you're dual wielding though, you could have a spell in each. But keep in mind, it's the action to activate the spell for your next strike. So it's an additional action on that regard. And then 2 at a time. So at level 14, you take this feat, and you can use both of your reactions, may attempt to spell shield and then spell absorb on the same spell. If the spell shield critically fails, then the spell absorb is treated as one lower. But vice versa, if spell shield critically succeeds, then spell absorb result is treated as one better. So if you critically fail to shield that spell, it's going to be harder to absorb it. But if you do shield that spell really well, it's easier to absorb the power from it. And then at 18th level, you only need to use one reaction to perform both spell shield and spell absorb. So if you go through all of this, you'll be able to counteract a lot of magic. And that is the Mage Hunter. So hopefully you're interested in it. If you are, the link to the PDF will be down in the description. And this is Sir Coach signing off.